Hi there, Kahana here. So sorry that it's been such a long time since I've made another video related to this anime, but I have so much I want to talk about. Initially, I have seen this anime in sub form. I'm just going to be talking about episode 4 because there's so much information I want to cover. I also rewatched this anime again in dub because it's been a while since I've talked about this anime and it's already done, and it's also becoming available in dub as well as sub. I wanted to get started talking about how the anime begins, where it showed Luke and his family going to town and talking about how their economy in their world works, which I thought was a really nice detail and really nice element to storytelling that they decided to add, telling us how important technically their family are in keeping up with managing the wildlife, the people's happiness, overall happiness, such as how much people contribute through taxes, how much crops they produce and how they manage that. And I'm assuming also the wildlife and how they manage on how much hunting and how much people have to contribute, such as selling of meats and storage and things of that nature, which was a nice opener for this episode. I also wanted to point out that I have to give props to the background artist teams because I really, really like the whole watercolor is style they went for the background, including the part where Luke is standing on the rooftop observing the town from below. It almost gave me a Assassin's Creed vibe, which I don't know if they did that on purpose, going back and looking at other medias related to that, or if it just happened to be a coincidence, but it was still a very happy accident. I did notice a few scenes where it seemed like some of the characters in the background seemed to look a little weird because of the fact that some of their features were disappearing. But it's a minor complaint because most time when people are walking around in real life, they're not looking at other people's faces to that point, unless there's something very abnormal with somebody's face. They're not looking at other people's faces to the point where they can notice every feature or anything like that on their face. So I feel like it's just a minor complaint. It's nothing big. Anyway, to reflect on what Luke's father says, we get to see Tar and her situation. With her situation, we find out that she came from a very poor family, and because of the taxes of her land, of the people managing her land, her family didn't have enough money for food for everyone. And because of this, and because of winter, another thing that Luke's father was mentioning, that they were happy that they were able to store up for winter, the opposite was happening with Tara and her family. Because they didn't have enough food for winter and they weren't going to have enough food for everyone, and she was the youngest, they decided to cast her out into the forest to, die. I'm not laughing because it's terrible. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's actually very terrible, but it's a very realistic reality for some people who grow up very impoverished. And I'm kind of glad that this anime did not shy away from nitty-gritty details such as this, which is one reason why I feel like I'm gonna enjoy this anime in a way. We see the opposite happening, that the lord of their land isn't very good at managing, and Luke actually points this out himself when he meets Tar. Nobles must be very poor at managing their land because of the fact of the state of the people, and he didn't realize that it was that bad. One thing I do want to realize the difference between the sub and dubs that I noticed in the dub, when maybe it's also because I can't see the words on the screen, when Luke, he makes metal gauntlet when he's fighting the wolves to protect Tar. And one thing I noticed, when he says create metal, it doesn't have the same impact, the same that it did in the sub. If you watch the sub, including in the early days when the anime first came out, you'll notice that they kind of warp the voice actors. You especially notice it with Dia in episode 1. When spells are being cast, they warp the voice actor's voice, which I feel like gives a lot more impact on when a character is casting a spell. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't repeat that in the dub. I don't know if they noticed this as well and corrected later on, or if that's just how it is and we just gonna have to live with it or watch the sub. And I'm not making this statement just to say sub is better than dub or anything like that. I feel like both of them have their pros and cons, like I'm pointing out here. And normally I watch dubs, when I'm doing something else, or I'm not micromanaging, multitasking. That's what I mean. Multitasking. When I'm multitasking and I still want to watch the anime, but I don't have time to sit down and do anything else besides listen to it or glance at the screen once in a while, it comes in handy to have it dubbed. When I have the time, sub is really nice. And like I said, sometimes they have details in there that sometimes they lose in translation or they don't really think about. But it's just a little detail I wanted to point out. Another detail that I wanted to mention, which I thought was really good, and it shows how, I don't know, how can I describe it? How detailed the manga artist is on telling the story for this anime. That I noticed was the fact that they thought of the detail of when Tart was being saved, that the fact that when Luke made a porridge for her, he made sure to tell her, hey, don't eat this fast. Which most people probably wouldn't think about, telling someone who was starving. They did a good job kind of showing how malnourished Tart was. She hasn't had food for quite a while, but they thought of putting in the detail that Tart shouldn't eat the food that she's being given very quickly, because of the fact that when, people who haven't had food in a very long time, they start eating again. If they eat too fast, you're gonna throw up. And I thought that was really interesting that they decided to add that into it. And like I said, it shows a great level of detail to even think of adding that on to the story. Another thing, and this is kind of a thought that did pass my mind, they do rewind time and show from Luke's perspective what was going on in his head. And one thing, at first I was like, I don't like how they worded this, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they did word this in such a manner, was the fact that they show us from Luke's point of view how he quickly realized that he might need Tar. The method of, in that split second, from what we saw from Tar's point of view, of how he quickly made up in his mind that he needed Tar accompany him to help with his mission of killing the hero, and the means of which he chose, which was to gain her trust, to show that he was caring, and to also expose the secret that he didn't directly say that his family were assassins, but he did say in a roundabout way that, hey, I'm probably going to kill more people, and if you come with me, you're going to be doing it too. And I thought that was, at first I was like, oh man, calling it brainwashing, that's kind of it doesn't feel good. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they did do it that way, because it kind of reminds us as an audience, yes, what Luke is doing is good, but at the same time, he does have his own set of motives of why he's doing what he's doing. And it's not just purely out of the kindness of his heart, but it also shows how motivated at the same time he is on completing his mission, and how quickly he's able to assess a situation, know what's going on, and to plot out what he's going to do from that point on in that quick amount of time that we saw. And that was such a really good idea that they decided to rewind time and show us that. And I hope that they continue to do moments like that, because there are going to be split seconds in the anime that in real time that only took a minute. For example, when people make fun of anime where characters are sitting there talking to themselves in their heads, it feels like it's like an hour, or it feels like it's like, I don't know, something that's probably 2 seconds it feels like it's 5 seconds. And other anime fans notice that and they kind of make fun of it. Here they did the opposite, where we saw everything real time initially, and then they went back and slowed everything down, and we know exactly what the character was thinking and what motivated them into doing what they did. So I really hope that they keep doing that. That was a really, really nice detail. And like I said, it's interesting that they decided to make sure to remind us that Luke is not like this benevolent person. Like, he has his own motives of why he's doing what he's doing. But, he will still, do things in order to, how can I say it, prioritize what he wants first, which, like I said, once again, sounds bad, but it makes sense in a way in human nature, that some people are going to do things that are good, but at the same time, it also benefits them. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out as well. They also show us the nobleman was over Tar's territory, and it confirms my theory that I was thinking for a while, including like when you watch the opening of this anime. If you pay attention in the opening, one scene that they show in particular was when Luke's original body turned into a ball of flames and is floating downwards in the middle of a overlapping image of the goddess, and they show other flames, and I said to myself, like, I think those other flames that they're showing in that image is other people that the goddess has summoned. Like, Luke is not the only person that she summoned to assassinate the hero. And this proves my theory right, that the nobleman over Tar's territory was someone that the goddess summoned and sent to his world, but unfortunately he got super comfortable of just living off that world that he's slipping on his job. So she's like, all right, well, gotta pick someone else, which was interesting. It's kind of interesting because it's making me wonder, is the goddess just gonna leave him to be, even though he's not technically doing his job, or is she going to do something about it? Is doing something about it just her summoning Luke? I'm not quite sure, because like another thing from the opening that I pulled out was that the goddess may not be as innocent as we think. I don't know if that also means that she may be villainous or have how can I say, different motives, such as like for people who watch Overlord, how the main character, he does good things and he does do overreaching things that involve other characters, and other characters view this as good, or they view this as giving them purpose, but at the same time he wants things to go a certain way. I'm wondering, is that the goddess's thought process when she summons these different people, and what does she do when characters don't do as she instructed? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Overall, I like the fact that they show that the nobleman that is over Tar's territory is someone summoned, and that they show that he, that it confirms Luke's theory that yes, he is very greedy, and yes, he is very incompetent from our perspective in two different ways: the way he's managing the land, and also the way he abandoned the task he was given to, which was to kill the hero. Later in the episode, they do a bit of a time jump where Luke is 13 now, which I noticed that they switched voice actors on us, which it's not unusual for people to do that. Have one voice actor for a child character and another one for the character that's reached puberty. But I just like the fact that they decided to remember to do that. They also changed a voice actress for Tar as well. One thing I did think about when I was watching the anime that I don't know if many people noticed or pointed out was how interesting it is that for Tart's character design, they put I think it was a 4-leaf clover. They put a 4-leaf clover as one of the accessories in her hair. Yeah, it was a 4-leaf clover as one of the accessories in her hair and in her clothing, which, most of the time, 4-leaf clovers are known to be lucky, which I don't know if they did it on purpose to kind of repeat, kind to emphasize how lucky Tart was in a way to be raised into Luke's family, where she would have, the other outcome could have been that she starved to death, or she could have been killed by those wolves that we saw earlier in that episode, along with the same thing where they repeat the color green in her eyes. So I just wanted to point out the good character design that they did for Tart in her later outfit and how it correlates to her background and what makes her her in a way. Just something to point out, including for maybe people who are watching this and they're thinking of what to do when they're making their OCs and how to incorporate such things as color and accessories to their character that may represent different moments or represent different phrases or themes within those characters. So I just wanted to point that out in particular. Tart does get trained the same way Luke does in the episode, and they do explain that, which makes sense, that Luke was instructed, yes, Tart can be his personal assistant, but if Tart was to ever betray them, that he would be in charge with killing her, which once again a very dark theme to add to the story, the show itself, but very realistic because of the fact that they're a family of assassins. So that means that Tart will be given access to a lot of information and knowledge and secrets of the family that they're not going to want to have put out there. So once again, another detail that this show is adding that I really liked and I thought was a really nice touch to kind of remind us, despite the bright colors, despite some of the jokes or lighthearted moments in the show, that there will be dark themes in this show, and to be kind of prepared for it. While training, we realized that Tart is having a bit of a difficulty with hand-to-hand combat. Using the information that we've learned from previous episodes, we find out that not only Luke is not the only character who in that world has a skill tree, I guess you can say. Tart does too, but instead of us, the viewer, being able to see Tar's skill tree, Luke can figure it out because he already has the knowledge that it exists in the first place. And we learn that Tar is only good with spear weapons. The only issue is spear weapons cannot be hidden. But once again, if you pay attention to episode 1, we see that that issue does get solved. And we find out, why Tart has the foldable spear in the first place, and that's because Luke was the one who made the weapon, which once again answers another question that we saw from episode 1. Just like example, Dia was using those spells to create a rifle, we found out that it was Luke who created the spell in the first place to create weapons such as rifles, and also answer the question on why the guards in episode 1 weren't armed with rifles themselves, because you would think another nobleman would have equipment such as guns if they existed, but we've learned that Luke was the one who created those items. And we find out once again that Luke also created the item that Tart uses in episode 1, which these are good things, but at the same time it makes me a little uncomfortable because of the fact that if you think about it, the fact that Luke is creating all these useful things are good, but you have to think of the fact that what will happen if the wrong people find out that he can create these things. And I'm sure he's aware of it because of the reason why Luke kind of mentions in episode, I can't remember, it was either episode 2 or 3 when he was training with Thea, that they should not talk about this. They shouldn't share this information, which I feel like is a bit of foreshadowing of that maybe this information does get out later on into the wrong hands. But this is just me spitballing, but I just feel like such great information and revolutionary knowledge for that world, it's not going to remain a secret for a very long time, including if it's being improvised in things like assassinations. Like, clearly someone is going to find this out eventually, I would think. We find out how Tar gets her spear from episode 1, and we also see that other characters can have certain skill trees just like our main character. It's just hers is probably very limited compared to Luke, who was, especially given this skill tree for the purpose of assassinating the hero. Overall, this episode was really nice. It had a lot of information packed in, and if you pay attention, you'll see that they're doing a very good job on giving us pieces of information and then answering those questions later on. And I continue to hope that they keep doing this trend throughout the episode, which makes us want to keep engaged when watching the show and paying attention to the knowledge that they drop in the episodes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy hearing me ramble on about this anime. And if you notice other things that I may not have noticed, you can put it down in the comment section below. Just please make sure not to put any spoilers down in the episode, since some people may have not watched the anime, or they're considering it, or they're watching it at the same pace as this video. Anyway, you guys have an awesome day, and I hope you guys enjoy hearing me ramble on about this anime, and I hope you guys pay attention to what's going on and enjoy the show like I am. Anyway, later.